Good afternoon. Good afternoon, PS42 friends and family. This is Mr. Sharkey. I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving holiday and had a chance to see some friends and family, and at the same time, remain safe. And I especially hope that everyone is doing well, feeling healthy and feeling safe and sound. You're in our thoughts and prayers. So thank you for your time logging in today and joining this little Zoom meeting. The intentions of this meeting, it's not going to be long. We're anticipating it to be very short, but full of information that's really important to every household at PS42. So our intentions today are to really give you an update of where we are with our school data, number of families, both remote and blended, and also dissecting and unpacking the mayor's letter and the chancellor's letter that was sent out on Sunday, and shed some more light and more details regarding the consent for COVID-19 testing when in school. And of course, always the overarching goal is to keep you in tune with the latest information and the information that's coming in from the Department of Education. Sometimes it gets confusing with media, and sometimes there's uneven information coming in from the state and city, and I want to reflect on that. So there are the intentions. So as you know, the opt-in window is closed, and our data as of November 30th, when I prepared this document, on the 30th, our current register, we have 1,048 students attending school. Our current registers have dropped a little bit due to number of families moving to parochial school. They're seeking more days in school. Some schools were able to do that, and some families moved out of the state to be with family throughout the states. So we're anticipating our registers to go back once everything goes back to normal. And so our current register is 1,048. 35% of our students are in remote learning, 368. And 680 students are now involved in blended learning, which is 65% of our total register. During that window for the opt-in, 45 students, families, chose to go from full remote to blended learning, which now we have a decrease of full remote and a 6.5% increase in blended. So right now, our current blended learning model is still in play. The Chancellor's Office and the Department of Ed over the weekend were talking about changing models and increasing times for students to come into school. Forgive me, but please understand that that is something that we are looking at very carefully. We're waiting for further guidance, but also understand that when we open up the window and more families are coming in, making the appropriate room is a concern, and we're able to do that. So our chances of increasing or changing our model decreased in a sense. But at the same time, we also are very mindful that due to the new restrictions and the criteria for consent forms, that also might change our landscape, the number of students who are actually attending school in session, in-person learning, which is blended learning. As new information comes in, as well as we get an analysis of what's actually happening in our own building, we will be continuously looking at the opportunity to change models. We are eager to utilize a model that serves you and your family. We have your best interests in mind, and we want to make sure that we do this right. So please allow us the next few weeks to see where we land with our actual consent form status and number of families. Due to the nature of the consent forms, I'll explain it in a slide or two, some families might be shifting to remote. I'll explain a little bit more. So right now, the Department of Ed's messaging on the 29th, I pulled apart the letter, dissected it a little bit. It was a lot of information. I feel like these are the major talking points. As you know, New York City public schools will be returning to school on the 7th, which is this Monday. This is excluding, however, schools that fall in the state designated orange or red zones, and PS42 is one of them. The DOE is working on plans right now to reopen schools. Perhaps that date will be coming soon, but as of right now, we are not returning on the 7th. Schools in the orange and red zones will remain closed for in-person learning until that date has been solidified. Thank God there's no red zones in New York City at this moment, but just to be mindful that we are located in an orange zone, and as a result, we'll remain closed and operate in a full remote capacity until further notice. There is a confusion. There's confusion in this area right now, as you know, because what happens is the media covers what the state is saying, and the state is not even with what the city is stating. So I was reading the Advance this morning, and that there's an article in there as well about how schools can go back when they're in the orange zone. So right now, South Shore schools on Staten Island in that zone, we're waiting for more direction from Central New York City Department of Education about next steps. As soon as we get it, we'll be sharing that information with you extremely quickly through School Messenger and emails. All right, so as we get it, you will get it. And folks, we get it as you get it, to be honest with you. So we're in this together. This is a map that you can link up to. This is the link that's within the Chancellor's letter that was sent out. I did a screenshot of this on the 23rd. I just checked it before I started this recording, and the map still remains the same. You simply type in the zip code and you'll be able to find out exactly what the status is in that area. PS42, our cursor in our location, we are well within the orange zone. And as a result, we will stay full remote until further notice. So with today's intention is also talk to you a little bit about the consent for COVID-19 testing. The Mayor and Chancellor was very, they message in the letter, as well as during the press conference that followed on Sunday. In order for your child to return to in-person learning, we must be submitting the latest consent forms for COVID-19 by the first day your child returns. So it's really important that you read through the letter and the literature and utilize the links and give consent. I understand that a lot of families are not willing and comfortable with this. I want you to really think it through. And I want you to think about what's really important to you. I'm never going to ask you to change your values or change your thinking. Parents first. I'm a parent too. But I also want you to understand that the posture right now with New York City Department of Ed is they feel strongly that COVID-19 testing consent forms need to be in place. The testing itself will be random, just as we've been doing for the last few weeks when we were in session. And instead of doing monthly, this will now be shifting due to our status with the zone. It will be weekly testing. Students in pre-K and K will continue to be excluded from this. However, grades 1 through 5, students in first grade up to fifth grade will be part of the actual testing, and failure to provide the consent for students will result in that child being, or children being transitioned to remote learning. And so that's the posture of the city and the mayor's office and the guidance that we received in the letters. So I believe many right now, we have the systems, the availability to review the systems, and many families already submitted consent in the past. I'm asking you to once again, update the consent, because the consent form that you gave consent might not capture the latest consent form, the language on the consent form. I think the difference might be between monthly and weekly now that they're switching it. So please update your consent forms. And the actual assessment, the test itself, I stay in the room majority of the time, and if it's not me, one of our assistant principals. In fact, most of the time it's all of us. We are very protective of your children. I know you know that. We treat them as our own because they are our own. And so we never allow a child to go through an assessment, a COVID test, if they're not feeling good about it or comfortable, of course, with your consent. But even if a child has consent and they just feel anxious, we make sure that they're in a good place. And if not, we didn't take it. So I've been part of those assessments, watching it, and every child that I experienced watching, they were in a very good place throughout the whole thing. If you want to see what the process looks like, please utilize the video. You can find that link itself on the in the letter. And as of right now, testing will be scheduled weekly for both students and staff. This is, again, mandatory testing. And it's a crucial way and a crucial part that the way the city is going to be making sure that our New York City public schools remain safe. So to access it, I'm not going to read you the slide in great detail, but it's step by step. If you're like me, bullets are better than a narrative, and just walk yourself through the logon and the prompts that will follow. And they also will be on our school website, the consent forms. And if you're not comfortable using electronics and technology, you can simply print it and email it to Joan Fazio. Her email address is as follows. Joan is our pupil accounting secretary, and she will key that into the system. The system itself is what the labs use when they come into our schools, and they randomly pick students of who they are going to be assessing. And if you want to go old school, that's fine with me too. You can print the form. It's printable, and we have access to it on the website as well as in the link below. And you can drop it off, and we will have a box in a inbox in our main lobby for you to drop off should that be your style. So right now, there are some exemptions for COVID-19 testing. The city made very clear in the literature. Again, I want to just expand on that. Students who need a medical exemption due to a health condition, we had some students, and unfortunately, we've had students that have ongoing facial or trauma, nasal surgery, etc. If something's happening where it's not safe for your child to be tested, there's an exemption form. And the city will be looking at that carefully. And please be mindful that you need to submit the proper documentation, and your doctor needs to sign off on that. For a student who has a disability who cannot safely be tested in school due to the nature of their disability, there's also an exemption, separate type of exemption form that could be found on our website as well. All forms could be found on the link in the bottom of this page. And last but not least, I just want to expand on, as I always do, that every single time a question surfaces or wondering, or you're hearing something that just doesn't feel right, or maybe seeing something on Instagram or social media or Facebook, whatever you follow and whatever you see, I am confident that the communication out there is uneven. That I'm confident about. We always hear different things at different times, and people weigh in opinions and a bias and whatnot. It happens. And so I just want you to remain centered. And should you have a question or a concern, if you just simply go to the virtual general office, your questions actually not only help you, but they help us with the messaging. And we actually look for trends and concerns that we want to stay ahead of to support you. And so please utilize the virtual general office. One or two questions came in just recently. We're just about 24 hours before we responded. We're sitting on one or two because we want to get the right information. So sometimes we take our time and getting back to you. If it's an urgent matter, definitely we get back. But some of your questions need time for us to do some research. And a lot of times, the questions that you're asking, we're asking as well. So please utilize it. Folks, I just want to end with how I started. I hope that every one of you, your family, your children, and everyone is safe and sound and remains that way. And as new information continues to come in, we will continue to reach out to you and keep you well informed. Thank you for your time.